Welcome back to what has become a series of videos on what and how we've upgraded the Pro Boat Stealthwake. The first upgrade we did to this boat was to add a brushless system. We kept burning up the brushed 550 motor. We went through two of them and decided it was time just to get a brushless system. The next upgrade we did was to add trim tabs and some components. We have the trim tabs, we added the water outlet, and tow cleat on the bow. Now we're on to the next upgrade, which is aluminum rudder with a water pickup. In addition to that, we also added this nice little grommet for the tubing to go into the boat, so it gives a nice clean look. In the process of putting the new rudder on, I also fiberglassed the inside of the transom, which I'll show soon. Because we had to take all the hardware off in order to do the fiberglassing and add the rudder, I also changed the turn fins. When we first put the trim tabs on, we were running the stock trim tab turn fin where it was actually attached to or kind of underneath the trim tab, and it limited how much we could adjust the trim tab. So what I did is I took the stock turn fin, traced it onto some sheet aluminum, and then just cut it out and added it. Or if you were doing this upgrade, you could easily just cut off the trim tab portion, because that's what my piece looks like. It's basically this plate with the turn fin. I didn't want to cut up the stock one, just decided to keep it as is. So the trim tabs are mounted parallel to the bottom of the hull, but they're about 1.5 millimeters above the bottom of the hull. So there's a gap here. This is essentially how it should be mounted. Most racing mono hulls are set up with the trim tabs 1 to 2 millimeters above the surface of the hull. And then, again, you can use this, you can push the trim tab down so that it pushes the bow down. But we finally got these where they should be. When I had the old trim tabs on, I wasn't able to get these where I needed them. But now that I've got that, we should have better control over how this thing rides. The other thing is you got to make sure your turn fins are 90 degrees to the hull, or basically 90 degrees to your trim tabs. And then of course with the rudder, so this was the stock plastic rudder, and you can see the new rudder, it's about 1 inch longer. We mounted this essentially in the same location, so the rudder push rod I didn't have to make any adjustments to, but again, it definitely gives us more depth, should give us some better control. And in the process of adding the longer rudder, I actually had to add 3/4 of an inch to the boat stand. And this is just the pink styrofoam insulation. It's 3/4 inch thick, just double stick taped it to the bottom of the existing stand. And that gives us the room we need to make sure this rudder isn't hitting the ground. So those are the major upgrades we've done so far. At some point, we are going to replace the drive shaft system. This is a rigid drive shaft that actually comes out of the back of the hull at about a -6 degree angle. So normally you would want your prop shaft coming straight out of the hull, maybe a little bit of a up or down angle, positive or negative angle. But in the case of the boat, it comes with a -6 degree angle. And that's actually forcing the bow into the water, which is part of the reason the boat runs wet. So eventually this is going to come out. We'll put either a strut or a stringer system in here and get this prop coming out of the transom parallel to the bottom of the hull, which will help this thing run better and faster. But what we have done, as I mentioned, is we fiberglassed the transom. There's 2 layers of fiberglass cloth. This is what I used. It's just heavy 5-ounce fiberglass cloth. Picked up at the local hobby shop. And then obviously you need epoxy. I just used 15-minute epoxy, and it seems to have done the job well. Put a piece of fiberglass cloth across the entire transom to the shape of the transom, and then added a second strip about halfway that went across where the rudder mount comes through. So when I fiberglassed this, I had to take off the rudder linkage boot, the drain plug. There's a little rubber piece around the drain plug that had to come out. Like I said, I took off the trim tabs. The only thing I didn't take out, of course, was the prop shaft and stuffing tube. But took all that hardware out, fiberglassed over it, and made this transom much more rigid. I can hold the boat from the rudder and it doesn't bend, it doesn't flex. So made it much stronger transom on this thing. You can kind of see the water lines. Right now we've got it running. The water line coming out of the rudder is actually running into the ESC, and then the hull pickup, the through hull pickup on the bottom, which is how it came, that's actually running to the motor. And then I've just got this T fitting here so that motor cooling and the ESC cooling come to the T and then just come out the one water outlet. So that's how we've got this set up.